It's a joy to be here with all of you, whether you're tuning in live or watching the recording. Thank you for taking time out of your day to learn about evacuating safely with pets and animals. It's my pleasure to be here. I've been with Marin Humane for 37 years, and I've seen my share of disasters and how people respond to them with pets. So we're going to give you a really quick snapshot view of how to handle being prepared for especially a wildfire in Marin and Sonoma. The most important component for you to remember is that you know your animal best. I might have a good idea about breed behaviors or certain individual animals when I see them, but I may not know everything that you know. And so really remember to use that to your advantage, whether you're evacuating, handing your animal off to a boarding or emergency animal shelter facility. Just remember that you know how that animal is going to react better than anyone. You will also be really skilled at knowing what your pet may need or want. They may be two separate worlds for your animal's sake, but for your sake, the more you know about how your animal will respond to a disaster, how they'll respond to stress, the more you can plan to be able to include those items that your pet will really appreciate. Most importantly, if you do nothing else tonight, please take heed of our advice of being prepared for wildfire. Wildfires are fast. We don't often have a lot of time. So if you can prepare in advance a kit designed for all of your pet's needs and then practice it and stay informed, you're already going to be ahead of most people. I'm really encouraged at how Marin residents have really done a great job preparing for their animals. In some cases, more planning for their animals than themselves, but it's all a really good first step. So disaster kits for pets are really simple. You do not need to go out and buy something. You can build your own really simply. There are really great ways to get free supplies, free carriers, free crates, but we want you to have about a 2-week supply of whatever your pet will need. If your pet is on special medications, we want to make sure you have an ample supply of those, and at least remember to write down what those medications are, because often we find people may forget what their pet is on. Having a photograph of your pet is always helpful. I love to include something that your pet will remind themselves of you. So a nice worn t-shirt at the end of the day is a great thing to add to your pet's carrier. It gives them some sense that you're around them. Their favorite toys and treats, of course, but there are a lot of checklists as well available on websites, our website, FireSafe's website. And we really want to make it simple for you, but we also want to emphasize you do not have to spend a lot of money to be prepared to have your pet ready to go. Talk a little bit about behaviors during a disaster. This is really important because if you have cats like mine, you might be challenged to be able to find them on any given day, whereas your dog may see your suitcase and get really excited. So just really kind of know what your pet can expect. If it's an indoor pet, I'd really urge you to consider knowing where their hiding spots are. Are they under the bed? Are they in the closet? Are they behind the headboard that we can't get to? And if they're outdoors, maybe consider bringing them into a smaller area, maybe a small room in your house, a shed, somewhere accessible so that if you do have to leave your property, they're right there waiting for you. Be mindful of those animals that you may have in your life that are nocturnal. They may want to be sleeping when you're out moving about, and whatever we can do to help ease their stress, just be mindful of, their sleeping patterns, their behavior patterns, and so forth. I can tell you, I do not have any cats in my life that see a suitcase and get excited. So if you have a cat that wants to curl up in your suitcase, great job. We want to make it as fun for our animals as possible, and not meaning that when they see the animal crate, it's a trip to the veterinarian. So knowing all these behaviors in advance will really go far to help you. You will probably have to modify some of your pet's behaviors, especially with regard to desensitizing them to being in a carrier or a crate. And this is really, really important because they may be spending hours and days on end in temporary confinement during a disaster. So the more familiar they are with a crate, being safe in a crate, being happy in a crate, that will help you. It's not necessarily going to be a bad experience where they have to go to the veterinarian. So use treats, use your scented t-shirt, whatever you can to make it a happy place. I put the fire alarm there because at one time I had 3 indoor only cats who were all trained and desensitized to the fire alarm that I tested every month. And so once a month, all 3 cat carriers were placed in the living room. I'd test the fire alarm, and then they'd all go running into their crates for a treat. That's the ideal animal household. I wish I had that these days, but for many of you, I'm sure you do. So just be mindful that we want to make it orderly. We want to be planning well in advance before we actually have to leave. I also had a really fun experience recently where I had to do a road trip up to the state of Washington with a dog that I currently own, Phil. He's pictured here. And he probably hadn't been in a car for more than 2 hours max. And I was going to be faced with a 12 to 13 hour drive, hotels, all of the things that come with traveling. So I realized at the time this was a great way for me to practice. As you can see on the photo, he was happily asleep just about every moment we were actually traveling on the road. He had a nice, comfortable car seat. He had all of his favorite toys. He had access to water. He had a chill mat. I really did my best to prepare. And it was really a relief because he not only got through it, but he really enjoyed it. Even being in a strange hotel room, he was just right at home. So the more we can practice, use these opportunities, whether it's a weekend trip or a day trip, this is all practice for disaster planning. Identification is the number one thing that I really want to emphasize tonight. Whether it's a cat, a dog, or any other animal, this is our best attempt to get them back to you in a hopefully quick time. And when I say identification, I mean tags that show your ownership, license for your dog, and in some cases, a microchip tag. The 3 tags that you see listed here are just that: a license, a microchip, and an owner ID tag. The only tag that's going to do your neighbors any good is that owner ID tag that actually has your phone number and your address. We really want to make sure that your pets are wearing as much identification as possible, including cats. They have safety collars so they won't get snagged if they roam outdoors. You might have to go through a few collars and tags, but please identify them. And we're happy to provide free pet ID tags here at Marin Humane for anyone that needs them. Microchipping is also really, really important. This is our best tool of the trade in animal sheltering to enable you to get your pet back quickly. It's permanent, which prevents animals from being lost or stolen. It comes back to you. This was a cat named Lily who actually, her owners moved to Florida. She was outdoors when they had to leave. They left her behind. They had to go. They placed lost reports or found lost reports with us. Believe it or not, 3 years later, Lily popped up in the animal shelter with her microchip, which enabled us to contact them in Florida. They came all the way out from Florida and reunited with her very happily. So microchipping is simple. We offer it for free at Marin Humane. You can call, have your dog or cat or rabbit chipped, and then you have the satisfaction of knowing that it's going to be there permanently. Make sure you update your records. If we do it, we'll have your information in our database, but please make sure if you move or change phone numbers that we're alerted to that. Temporary housing options for pets during an emergency come in all shapes and sizes. We really recommend that you find an option before an event with a relative, friend, someone out of the area. That's an agreement between you and the person. But if you can't do that, then look for pet-friendly hotels. A lot of people were really successful last year with Airbnb rentals, especially with pets. That's probably the new up-and-coming modern way of finding rentals when we need to. Pet boarding, especially in Marin and veterinary hospitals, are really, really limited. And if you have a relationship now with your veterinary hospital or a boarding facility, take advantage of finding out what their plan is, if they will have space Make sure your animals are up to date on your vaccination to be able to get you in there. And if not, there's plenty of emergency housing options for pets. Marin Humane and all the other animal shelters in the region accept pets from emergency situations and offer free boarding. And we'll hold your pet for as long as you need us to. This is the reality of temporary emergency pet sheltering. They're most likely going to be in a wire cage or crate. Sometimes they'll be in an actual shelter run similar to a boarding kennel, but it's really bare necessities. I always want to just emphasize that your pet is safe, but it's not your home and not your couch. That's why if you can find your own arrangements before needing this kind of service, it's always a benefit to your animal. The other thing I've really been impressed with in Marin is our community's preparedness level with disasters of all types, but mainly around animals. So we want you to have your own plan to start with. Make sure it includes everything your pet will need, possible options if you have to leave your neighborhood, and then make sure you can identify what resources are there in your neighborhood that could help you during an event or an emergency. Maybe there's someone very animal savvy in your neighborhood that you can call on. And then once you've identified those two areas, offer help if you can provide it. And this is really wonderful to see in Marin neighborhoods that have really helped do a lot of planning. Probably the other most important tip that I can tell you is become a weather watcher. Red flag warning days, they mean business, as we all know. That would be the day that you'd want to make sure all of your animals are rounded up. If that outdoor cat is around, put him in the bathroom overnight, have your cars packed and ready to go. And it's your comfort zone of how long you stay there. But we really want to watch the weather. We want to know where the wind's going. We want to make sure that we're getting notifications and alerts. When you get a notification to evacuate, do so quickly. There's all kinds of things that make getting out easy for you, whether it's folding carriers, backpacks, wheeled bags, all of these things you can practice and plan around, but don't stay if you're asked to evacuate. We will be there to help the animals after the fire, just as when it starts before the fire. We will go into evacuated areas to remove pets. We will go into evacuated areas to provide food, water, and veterinary care. For animals, it's a long-term support function. So well after the fire is over, we will be helping pets for months and months and months. So it's really important that if you can't get to your animal, know that Marin County has a very solid plan that we will go in and get your pet the help he or she needs, or in some cases, remove your pet and bring them back to our shelter to reunite with you. I'm going to share this video. This is a really happy ending to end my presentation on, featuring a dog that was missing from the Sonoma County fires a number of years ago, and the microchip hadn't been updated. It gives you the story, but I want to emphasize, if you do ever lose your pet, never give up. So I'll play it for you now.
Hey guys.
Oh, okay, well, I'm gonna just get out of the way. Wait a second, we're going to...
He was so gone. Oh, is this what? There's your dad.
It's always so much fun to see the chaos of a happy reunion, more so than the chaos of a disaster scene. I'm available to all of you. Here's my email. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. This is my direct phone number as well. I'm happy to help anyone, anytime, for anything that they need on the disaster front.